Amara, please don't tell me that scar is still there. You should really do something about it. It has always been there, Tara. I can't change it. I know, but honestly, it makes your face look strange. I didn't choose to have it.
Amara, you've still not changed this your bag. You've been using this same old school bag for so long. It still works, Tara. Of course it works. You've been carrying it for years. My mother said we'll get a new one when we can afford it. Honestly, Amara, I don't know how you managed to use the same things for so long. I'm okay with it.
That was how Amara's life had been for years. Every day, someone reminded her that she was poor. Someone reminded her that her clothes were old. Someone laughed at her shoes. And someone always found a way to make fun of the scar on her wrist. But what hurt the most was that the person who mocked her the most was supposed to be her best friend. Her name was Tara. The beautiful, wealthy girl everyone admired. Tara had everything Amara wished she could afford. A beautiful house, expensive clothes, a driver, a phone worth more than everything in Amara's house combined. And most importantly, Tara never had to worry about where her next meal would come from. Amara did. Yet, Amara never allowed her situation to make her bitter. She kept going to school every day, hoping that one day her life would change. She had no idea that the girl who was laughing at her old school bag would soon become connected to the biggest secret of her life.
Good morning, Mama.
Good morning, my child.
What are we eating?
Whatever God has provided.
Amara had grown up in a small house with her mother. Her father had died when she was young, leaving Adaze to raise her alone. Money was always a problem. Sometimes there was enough food. Sometimes there wasn't. Sometimes Amara went to school in clothes that were already fading. Her shoes were often old, and there were many things she couldn't afford. But despite everything, Amara never complained about her mother's struggles. Amara's mom worked hard every day to make sure her daughter never felt unloved. She cooked whatever she could afford, worked long hours, and always encouraged Amara to keep going. She always told her daughter the same thing: being poor is not the same as being worthless. Those words stayed in Amara's heart, even when other people made her feel small because of the life she was living. Amara had been born with the scar, a small crescent-shaped mark curved across her cheek. Her mother had always told her it was nothing, just something she had been born with. Amara had once asked questions. Why was it there? Was it dangerous? Did other people have the same thing? Her mother always gave the same answer. You were born with it, my child. Don't worry about it. So Amara stopped asking.
Look what my mother bought me. It's beautiful, Tara. I know. It was very expensive. You're lucky. Lucky? My mother can afford to buy me nice things. That's nice. Amara, you're still using that old bag? It still works. You've been using it for so long. Tara, I don't like this. Amara, I was only joking. You are always joking, but you only laugh at your jokes. You are just angry.
Tara always called it a joke. When she insulted Amara's clothes, she called it a joke. When she laughed at her old school bag, it was a joke. Even when she mocked the scar on Amara's cheek, she still called it a joke. But Amara knew better. She knew that jokes were supposed to make people laugh, not make one person feel ashamed of herself. Amara tried to ignore Tara. She tried to focus on her studies and pretend that the words did not hurt. But every comment stayed in her mind. Tara was wealthy, confident, and admired by everyone at school. Amara was just trying to get through each day without feeling ashamed of the life she and her mother lived.
Excuse me, young lady.
Yes, Ma?
That scar.
My scar? Yes.
Where did you get it?
I was born with it, Ma.
You were born with it?
Yes. My mother always told me I was born with it.
Mommy, why are you staring at her like that? I need to ask you something.
What, Ma?
What is your mother's name?
Adaeze.
Adaeze.
Mommy?
It's nothing. Come, Tara.
Grace had no idea that the girl standing nearby could have any connection to her family. She only knew that Amara was Tara's classmate. But the moment Grace noticed the scar on Amara's face, everything changed. She froze and stared at it carefully. The shape looked strangely familiar. It reminded her of the scar her mother had always carried. Grace's mother, Mrs. Rose, was the first daughter of her generation, and she had always carried the family's special scar. She had told Grace many times that the mark passed from one generation's first daughter to the next. Grace herself did not have the scar because she was not the first daughter. That was why seeing the scar on Amara's face shocked Grace so deeply. Amara was a girl she had never met before from a completely different family. Yet she was standing there with the same unusual mark that belonged to the first daughters of Grace's family. Grace tried to convince herself that it was only a coincidence, that the more she looked at Amara, the harder it became to ignore. She knew she needed answers. Who was Amara's mother? Where was Amara born? And why did this poor schoolgirl carry a scar that was supposed to belong only to the first daughter of Grace's family?
Amara, wait!
Yes, Ma?
Where are you going?
I'm going home.
Come on, let me take you home.
Are you sure, Ma? Yes.
Please, I need to see your mother.
Okay, Ma.
Let's go. Are you Amara's mother? Yes. Why do you ask? I'm sorry to come here like this. I just want to ask you a few questions about your daughter. About Amara. What happened? Nothing happened. I just noticed something very unusual about her.
Ma, what is it?
That scar on your face, you said you were born with it?
Yes, Ma. My mother said I was born with it.
Where did you give birth to her? Why do you need to know that? Please, just tell me. At St. Anne's maternity.
St. Anne's?
Yes. Why?
This can't be a coincidence.
Grace left Amara's compound that afternoon with one strange thought on her mind. That scar. She couldn't explain it, but something about it looked familiar. Her mother had always told her that the mark was special and that it appeared in the family. Grace had never seen it on anyone outside their family before. So, why was it on the face of a 16-year-old girl named Amara? Grace decided she needed to find out more about the girl. Grace sat quietly in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection. She couldn't stop thinking about Amara. That scar had bothered her ever since she saw it. It reminded her of something her mother had told her many years ago. The scar was not an ordinary mark. It was connected to the first daughters in their family. But Grace was not a first daughter. So why did 16-year-old Amara have it? Grace knew she couldn't ignore it anymore. She needed answers.
Mom, I saw a girl today with the same scar you have.
What did you say?
The scar, the exact same kind.
She said she was born with it.
Where did you see her? At Tara's school. Her name is Amara.
Amara?
Yes, Mom. Why? Do you know something?
Grace, that scar is not an ordinary scar.
Then what is it, Mom?
It is the mark of the first daughter in our family.
Grace showed her mother the photograph of Amara. Mrs. Rose stared at the phone without saying a word. Her eyes immediately went to the scar on the girl's face. The same mark. The same unusual shape. For years, Mrs. Rose had believed the scar was simply a family tradition passed down to the first daughter. But now she was looking at a 16-year-old girl who carried the exact same mark. Mrs. Rose slowly looked at Grace. Something about this girl was not a coincidence. And for the first time in years, a forgotten memory began coming back to her. Years ago, on the night Grace was born, Mrs. Rose stayed beside her daughter in the hospital. Grace had just given birth to a beautiful baby girl. Mrs. Rose was overjoyed as she looked at the newborn. She never imagined that the same night would become one of the most important nights in their family's history. Everything seemed normal, but something was about to happen that no one would discover for 16 years. That night, another woman was also in the maternity ward with her newborn baby girl. The hospital was unusually busy. Nurses moved from one room to another, carrying babies and attending to mothers. In the middle of all the confusion, the two newborn girls were briefly placed in the wrong places. No one noticed the mistake. The mothers eventually went home, each believing they had taken their own baby. Mrs. Rose remembered that night clearly, but she never imagined that anything had gone wrong. She had watched over Grace and the baby, believing everything was exactly as it should be. Years passed and the two girls grew up in completely different homes. One family had wealth and comfort. The other struggled to survive. Neither family knew that their lives had been connected since the night those babies were born. Grace told David everything that had happened at Tara's school. She explained how she had noticed the unusual scar on Amara's face, and how the mark looked exactly like the one her mother, Mrs. Rose, carried. David listened carefully, but he wasn't convinced. To him, a scar alone was not enough to prove that Amara had any connection to their family. Grace insisted that she wasn't simply imagining things. Her mother had always told her that the scar was connected to the first daughters in their family. Grace wasn't a first daughter, so she had never carried the mark herself. But seeing it on 16-year-old Amara had unsettled her deeply. She couldn't understand how a girl from such a different background could have the same unusual scar. David finally realized how serious Grace was. He asked whether she knew anything about Amara's family or where she had been born. Grace shook her head. She only knew that Amara's mother was named Adaze. But one thing kept bothering her. Amara had said she was born with the scar. Grace knew they couldn't simply ignore what they had discovered. They needed to find out the truth. Grace stared at the DNA report in disbelief. The result was clear. Tara was not her biological daughter. Grace's hands began to tremble as she read the report again. She couldn't understand how this could be possible. Tara had been her daughter for 16 years. She had carried her, raised her, and loved her with all her heart. Yet the test was telling her something she never imagined. Tears filled Grace's eyes as she struggled to accept the truth. She looked at Tara, then back at the report. Tara was still the same girl she had raised, the same child she loved. But if Tara wasn't her biological daughter, then whose child was she? And if Tara wasn't hers, what did that mean about Amara? For the first time, Grace realized the scar might be connected to something much bigger. Grace wiped her tears and took a deep breath. She knew she couldn't stop there. She needed another test. This time, she had to find out the truth about Amara. The girl with the scar had appeared in her life for a reason, and Grace could no longer ignore the feeling that the answers were connected to the night she gave birth 16 years ago. Grace finally told Adaze the truth. She explained that she had already taken a DNA test with Tara, and the results showed that Tara was not her biological daughter. Now, Grace wanted to take Amara for another DNA test. Adaze was shocked and confused, but Grace knew they needed to find out the truth once and for all.
Why? Why does my mom want to take you for a DNA test? Because your mom told my mom that she already did a DNA test. She did what? She said she went for a DNA test with you and you aren't her biological daughter. My mom never told me that.
Mrs. Grace, the results are ready.
Okay, let me see.
Grace, take your time.
Mom, what does it say? No, this can't be right.
Test. It says Tara isn't my biological daughter.
What?
After the DNA results, everyone gathered at Grace's house. Tara sat beside Amara's mother, while Amara sat beside Grace's mother. Grace and David sat nearby, both still trying to understand everything. For 16 years, these families had believed they knew the truth about their children. But now the DNA results had changed everything. 2 girls had grown up in the wrong families. And the truth about what happened that night at the hospital was finally coming to light. Tara sat alone in Amara's house, tears streaming down her face. Everything she had believed about her life had suddenly changed. For 16 years, she had called Grace her mother. Now she had learned that Grace wasn't her biological mother. She didn't know where she truly belonged anymore. And the thought of losing the family she had always known broke her heart. The 2 women realized that they didn't have to choose between blood and love. Amara could have both. A biological mother, and the mother who had raised her. A wealthy family, and the poor home that had given her love. For 16 years, Amara had believed the scar made her different. She thought it was something she needed to hide. She thought people would always see the scar before they saw her. But the opposite happened. The scar became the clue that revealed her identity. It connected her to a family she didn't know existed. It showed her that her life had been built around a mistake. And most importantly, it taught her that her worth had never depended on money, beauty, clothes, or other people's opinions. She was valuable before the truth was discovered. She was valuable when she was poor. She was valuable when people laughed. And she was still the same Amara after discovering she was born into wealth. Her circumstances had changed, but her heart had not. She finally understood that the scar was never something to be ashamed of. It had been part of the story that led her home.
Mama, I'm not leaving you. Money doesn't erase everything you've done for me.
Amara sat beside Adaze and looked into her eyes. Mama, I'm not leaving you. Adi's eyes filled with tears. Amara reached for her hand and continued. Money doesn't erase everything you've done for me. Adaze could no longer hold back her emotions. She pulled Amara into a tight hug, grateful that the daughter she had raised for 16 years still loved her deeply. Amara eventually moved into her biological family's home, but she never abandoned Adaze. She visited her regularly and always made sure she was okay. She supported her whenever she could, and reminded her that she would never forget the woman who raised her. Their circumstances had changed, but the bond they shared remained strong. Adaze would always be the mother who gave Amara 16 years of love. Moral lesson. Never judge a person by their appearance, clothes, background, or scars. Your worth is not determined by how much money you have or where you come from. Amara's story teaches us that love is more than blood. Adaze may not have given birth to Amara, but she gave her 16 years of love, care, and sacrifice. Sometimes the truth may completely change your life, but never forget the people who stood by you when you had nothing. Be kind. Don't mock others. Don't judge people by what you see. And always appreciate those who genuinely love and support you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed Amara's story, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Your support means so much to us. See you in the next story.